What a peaceful night. This is MTN.
Tonight, a campaign to combat racism. Winnipeg clamps down. Tonight, the Jets are here, but the question now is, where are they going to play? And tonight, voting in prison. Inmates wanting to be heard.
Now, live from Manitoba's News Network, Pulse News.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Kristen Firth. A spokesman for Winnipeg's gay community says members of the police force are homophobic. Now, the city and Winnipeg police have come together to work on a campaign designed to fight gay bashing. The Safe City Committee has put out 2 brochures on hate-motivated violence, as well as a billboard in Osborne Village. The police say they want to make the public more aware of the seriousness of gay bashing. But members of Winnipeg's gay community claim it's Winnipeg police who use anti-gay rhetoric. Carolyn Curry reports.
This is the message the city and the police department hope to get out to the public, that gay bashing is going on and that it won't be tolerated.
This is just something that we're sort of putting together in order to make people more aware that it's happening, to get people to be more aware that it's not right, and that the police are prepared to act against any sort of violence against this group of people.
Hate-motivated violence is no secret here around Osborne Village. The Safe City Committee knows that, but they're also concerned that many gay bashings go unreported.
Because people are afraid, people are intimidated. Police are trying to say, we've changed our ways, we are concerned, it is a crime, and they want to be there to help the victims.
But the victims are hesitant. Jason Lougheed says many of his gay friends have had complaints about police.
I think there should be more investigation of members of the police force themselves who are very homophobic and reactionary. Many of them openly espouse an anti-gay rhetoric.
Amy Scott says she was stopped by police several weeks ago as she was holding hands with her girlfriend.
They just said, would you mind not doing that? Why? Well, we'll bring you in. And I just went, on what charge? And they literally tried to take our hands like we were holding hands like this. They literally tried to break us apart.
According to police records, 4 gay bashing incidents were reported last year. But both police and the gay community agree more goes on that isn't reported. And this campaign is designed to change that. But from talking to the people who live with the fear of hate-related violence and the mistrust of police, that's going to be a challenging job. In Winnipeg, Carolyn Curry, Pulse News.
Opening arguments started today in Winnipeg in a court case that may see prisoners getting the right to vote. 7 prisoners from Stony Mountain and 1 from Kingston are challenging part of the Canada Elections Act that denies them to vote. They say the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, which guarantees the right to vote, overrides the Elections Act. And the group's lawyer says denying prisoners the vote is like a morals test imposed on them.
Is the government, in the face of a specific charter right, allowed to say who is morally disentitled from voting? You know, maybe the next thing they're going to ask you to submit to a questionnaire and give you a test. Are you morally responsible to vote? Are people who are unemployed? Are people who choose not to work? Are people on welfare? You know, homosexuals? Who are they going to target next?
Still ahead on Pulse News tonight, they're back, they're bad, and they're getting ready to bite. That story still ahead. Well, the debate over the Winnipeg Jets reached the floor of the Manitoba legislature today. NDP leader Gary Doer attacked the government for increasing its support for a deal to keep the NHL team in Winnipeg. He said Tory Premier Philman had promised the government would limit its support for a new arena to $10 million. Now, Doer wants to know how quickly it climbed to $37 million. Meantime, another controversy has developed over the arena issue. Last week, the city voted unanimously to contribute the city's share to build an entertainment complex at the East Portage Avenue site. Now, some city councillors appear to have flip-flopped on the issue. Here's Wilf Brown.
Demand Evelyn Reese was one of the 13 city councilors that voted in favor of accepting the terms of the MEC deal, which included building the arena east of Portage. But now she has convinced the Executive Policy Committee to review the convention center site. Some councilors believe this could force the province or MEC to pull out of the deal.
If this deal falls through because of some fault, because some members of the council will not agree to what they agreed on last week, a vote of 13-3. Now they decide to go reverse the vote and have 13-3 in the other way. And we don't know what the province is going to, the provincial government will do. The provincial government has said, you know, it'll be the Portage East site.
I do not believe there is any danger for the councillors to do their homework. They do theirs, let's do ours. Simple as that. Bottom line, we look at our costs. They have said, take it or leave it. The conditions are no longer there. Now we have to look at our dollars.
A group of downtown business people prefer the convention center site for obvious reasons. It would be better for business. Plus, all the infrastructure is already in place, roads, sewers, and so forth. But proponents of the convention center site say it's almost like it's too logical.
The shopping, the two malls, Eaton's, the Bay, Portage Place, Eaton Place, the hotels are all around the site, the restaurants. It's too logical. I think that's what the problem is.
And in case you're wondering if anything else may spark debate, wait until the franchise is renamed. A spokesperson for the team says the Jets logo, which was retired, will be resurrected and likely won't be changed until the Jets are in their new arena, whenever and wherever that may be. In Winnipeg, Wilf Brown, Pulse News.
Well, Prime Minister Chrétien put out a political fire by announcing Ottawa will pay the cost of setting up a national gun registry. Last weekend, Chrétien suggested the provinces may get stuck with a bill, estimated at $85 million over 5 years. Now, Chrétien added that the provinces will still be responsible for enforcing the gun control law.
It has been 4 months since the Prime Minister formally submitted to questions about his government. Today, Jean Chrétien decided to make amends, but he was playing down any expectations.
No, I don't have much to say at this moment. There was no question period this week, so I wanted to stay in shape.
For 30 minutes, the PM fielded questions on a wide range of issues facing his government. On gun control, Chrétien said the provinces would have to pay for enforcing the gun laws despite their opposition.
The enforcement of the law. It's always the responsibilities of a provincial government. When you change a criminal code.
On peacekeeping, the PM said Canada's 2,000 soldiers will stay in the former Yugoslavia despite increasing hostilities.
I'm still of the view that the troops there are still playing a very useful role there. And if the troops were not in former Yugoslavia at this moment, there will be much more people will be dying or being injured, or more other crimes will be committed.
And on Quebec's referendum, Chrétien poked fun at the province's separatists, who he said are trying to mislead the voters.
They call themselves souverainists, and it's not a French word. Word separatist is French. And should not be the one who is forcing them to use a French word.
Getting the Prime Minister to talk isn't tough. Getting details often is. It can be frustrating, but it's all part of that folksy image which has helped Chrétien remain so popular with most Canadians. And it's a style the Prime Minister appears determined to stick with. Sean Poulter, ISN, Ottawa.
Another firing attempt at the White House last night, and security is tight after a man carrying a weapon scaled the president's home last night. It was around 10:45 after Clinton finished a speech on Capitol Hill. A half hour after, Mr. Clinton walked into the south entrance, an alarm sounded. Now, Secret Service agents caught up with 37-year-old Leland William Majeski. They say one officer fired a shot when he realized Majeski had a gun. The bullet pierced his arm, then the arm of the Secret Service officer. A White House spokesman says Mr. Clinton and his family are fine. Now, officials seized Majeski and his wife at home. This morning, he was operated on for his wound and then charged with assault and fire violations. Well, you could call them the mining Olympics. This week, rescue teams from throughout Manitoba gather at Atomic Energy Canada's Whiteshell Lab to compete. Now, this will be the first time the event goes underground. Kevin Wishlow has that story.
a mine rescue team swings into action.
Somebody help! You focus on the task at hand. You focus on your breathing, and just do the job you have to do.
There has been an explosion. A worker is injured. This is not the real thing. This team at Atomic Energy of Canada's White Shell Mine is practicing for competition.
We prepare constantly for mine rescue, but for a competition it's a little different. We just bone up on some of the stretcher procedures, first aid. Things happen a lot quicker in a competition than they do in reality.
Just to give you an idea of how precarious a mine rescue can be, we are 240 meters underground. That's deeper than Winnipeg's Richardson building is tall. There are only two ways up, the elevator or cage and the stairway beside it.
Any scenario is bad, but generally fire is something that's very difficult to handle underground because the tunnels actually create a ventilation flow, and they act like a chimney for a fire, and the fire gets to be a raging force underground. So it's very difficult to deal with.
Rescue teams like this one respond to the real thing on average 12 times every year in Manitoba. Most of the time, they're successful.
It gives us an opportunity to take a look at the level of training which mine rescue personnel have, and if there's deficiencies in it, we can repair it.
Hopefully a competition this weekend, not the real thing, will be this team's next call. Near Pinawa, Kevin Wishlow, Pulse News.
Plenty more still ahead tonight on Pulse News. Kimberly Carroll will be in live with entertainment. And of course, Ron will have the complete weather picture. Stay with us.
Tonight in entertainment, we'll tell you where the hottest club act is in town, new movie releases, and the fabulous sax of Wally Larson coming up live on Lombard.
In the weather tonight, if we didn't get your plants last night, we're going to try again tonight. Weather details are coming up.
It's here, the magic of Tiger Days, only at Esso. Tiger Days is a whole month of special offers, exciting events, plus all the friendly service, value, and convenience you expect. Pick up a Tiger Day special, say hello to a friend, or treat yourself to a great snack. Tiger Days means Esso value and more. So come in all month long and experience Tiger Days. You won't want to miss the magic.
You're on your way with Esso. Yeah!
Ball free!
I'm thinking about our sports select picks. We want Minnesota over Toronto.
Yeah, see, I'm waffling on that game. What about Boston, Chicago? What are they talking about?
Strategy.
Let's just pick 3 winners then.
No, we always play a 4-pick. So let's stick with our first 3 and go with Toronto.
Let's hurry it up.
Why? You late for your eye appointment?
An emotional day in a Toronto courtroom for the parents of a murdered 14-year-old girl. At the Paul Bernardo trial today, Dan and Debbie Mahaffey watched a TV monitor. What they saw were pictures of their daughter Leslie. Her badly decomposed body was found encased in concrete blocks in a lake near St. Catharines, Ontario. Tom Hayes has more from Toronto.
June 29th, 91, William Greco and his wife were putting their canoe in Lake Gibson. He couldn't believe what he saw, sections of concrete that had broken apart 2 weeks after Leslie Mahaffey had disappeared. The second witness, Michael Doucette, was fishing there that day.
Realizing what it was, I called my son over, said this is definitely body parts, and I'm going to go flag somebody down to call the police.
There were a total of 7 concrete blocks pulled from Lake Gibson over the next 2 days, weighing a total of 640 pounds. Terry Smith is with the Niagara Identification Squad. Under cross-examination, he said the largest block weighed 200 pounds. In the opening statement, it was alleged that Bernardo purchased a number of bags of cement from the St. Catharines Beaver Lumber Store, and that Carla Homolka drove to Lake Gibson with Bernardo to assist him in disposing the blocks.
Several explosives and mischief charges have been laid after a man took a small homemade bomb into a federal office building in Hull, Quebec. Now, the incident forced almost 1,800 civil servants to flee. There was some minor damage when bomb experts detonated the device. Charged is 41-year-old Pierre-Claude Dufresne of Kilwaja in northern Quebec. Meantime, the search for bodies is about to resume at the site of the federal building in Oklahoma City, and there are new developments concerning the suspects in the case. They're against suspect Terry Nichols. Now, the Washington Post reported that a friend saw Nichols as the chemist who mixed the explosives that are utilized by a religious militant group. Investigators say McVeigh called the community 2 days before the bombing, but the group's spiritual leader says he doesn't know McVeigh. The long-awaited Somalia inquiry got underway today in Ottawa. Now, it will examine the death of one Somalia man who was beaten to death, as well as the shooting of 2 others. Now, commissioners will also be investigating the actions of the Canadian Airborne Regiment, which was disbanded in disgrace after several shocking videotapes surfaced showing soldiers taking part in racist behavior and grotesque hazing rituals. Today's opening session was mainly a procedural one, but as Jacqueline Malcherik reports, many are anxious that justice is served.
The inquiry commissioners are hoping to get to the bottom of what happened during the 1992-93 peacekeeping tour in Somalia. The commission will study the airborne regiment from all sides, including the role of the military leadership.
The commission will also review the allegations of cover-up and destruction of evidence in order to determine whether they are well-founded.
Despite a number of military investigations and a series of courts-martial, there are still many lingering questions about things like the beating death of a Somali teen more than 2 years ago. In addition, the commissioners say they want to restore the public confidence that was lost after these shocking videotapes surfaced, showing airborne soldiers taking part in hazing rituals and making racist remarks about Somalis.
Operation Snatch Bigot.
At the hearings today, this Somali man claimed still more deaths need to be made public. He wants justice.
Justice for every Canadian, justice for the Somalians, justice for the victims, justice for the soldiers, the innocent ones, those who did not engage in any kind of atrocities.
But the head of a military magazine fears justice may be hampered if some soldiers don't come forward for fear of losing their jobs.
Whether they turn against their employer and tell what they were told to do and how they themselves let down the government in its actions is going to be telling.
The procedural hearings continue tomorrow, and evidence will start being heard the week of June 19th. Among those taking part in the inquiry is a military doctor who brought many of the allegations to light, as well as former Prime Minister Kim Campbell, who was Defense Minister at the time. Jacqueline Malcherik, ISN, Ottawa.
Well, they're calling it a cross-Canada scam, and lax government regulations may be to blame. Just imagine buying a used car in mint condition, only to find out it's 2 salvaged halves from 2 different write-offs. Now, the Automobile Protection Association warned the public today the practice is becoming more and more common. And as Tracy Madigan reports, the APA says people wouldn't be taken for a ride if the registration system was cleaned up.
Andrew Blakely inspects cars for a living. When he sees a car that has been soldered together from 2 halves of different cars, he informs the potential buyer that the car may be unstable or unreliable, and that the warranty is likely null and void.
I know what they look like, and the ones that have been done by a body shop are not at all the same. So you can tell that part of the car has been taken off and replaced.
The APA says the provinces aren't in proper contact with one another when it comes to automobile registration. If a car is written off and auctioned in one province, its registration number is recorded as a wreck. But if it's transported to another province, suddenly it has no history.
Ontario, by the way, has one of the sloppiest registration systems. It's the Panama of the used car business. Dealers who know will bring in a vehicle from somewhere else, run the paper through Ontario, and then export it somewhere else. And that way they're clean.
Spotting a car that's been sectioned is not always easy. Quite often the cuts are made in a part of the frame that isn't always obvious. The best signs of evidence will be found underneath on the floor, where inspectors will see obvious signs of soldering. Another place for you and I to check would be in the trunk, underneath the carpet. Quite often, the color of the paint under there won't be the same color as the entire car. We decided to visit some garages specializing in certain makes of cars to see just how often cars are pieced together. This mechanic says stolen parts and pieced-together cars are everywhere, but that he's managed to steer clear of it. You have the front half of one car and the back half of another. Is that common?
Yeah, that's common a lot. But if you
You know, if it's done nicely, you cannot even tell.
This mechanic admits he uses pieces from wrecks to repair cars, but that he'd never build a car up from pieces of scraps. Although he does admit the lack of communication between provinces would make it easy to sell a souped-up write-off.
Well, there are a lot of people, they do that. They buy them over there and they bring them in, and here they repair them. But sometimes, sometimes the car looks very, very bad, but it's easy repairable and it's safe.
The APA is calling for the rules to be toughened so that a write-off cannot be sold as a solid car anywhere in North America. Tracy Madigan, ISN, Montreal.
Time for a quick break. When Pulse News continues, more flooding. This time waters are creating chaos just south of the border. And Kimberly Carroll live on Lombard when Pulse News returns.
June 7th is a very special day at Tim Hortons. It's the day we donate the proceeds from our coffee sales to the Tim Horton Children's Foundation. The foundation makes it possible for kids from your community who might not otherwise have the opportunity to go to camp to get together with other children from across Canada at one of 4 Tim Horton children's camps. So join us for coffee at Tim Hortons on June 7th and help give a deserving kid a summer to remember.
Since people first started filling up with Mohawk's ethanol-blended gasoline made with Prairie grain, over 150 million pounds of harmful tailpipe emissions have been prevented from going into our air. Mohawk, Mother Nature's gas station.
Good evening, friends. Another night of frost forecast for tonight, but then temperatures starting to warm up a little bit for tomorrow and Friday, cooling off just slightly for the weekend. Got up to 13.5 today in Winnipeg, currently 10 degrees, partly cloudy, light northerlies, humidity 70%, the barometer 102.32, 13.1 the high in Portage, currently 11, light northwesterlies, humidity very low, 41%, barometer 102.41. Here's your record high, 37.2 or 32.7 in 1980, the record low minus 4.4. 1949. 19.9, the normal high, 6.4, the normal low. A year ago, 21.1 and 8.2. Sun rose at 5:32 and it set this evening at 9:19. Southern Manitoba sees temperatures ranging anywhere from 8 degrees up in Clear Lake to about 12 degrees in Brandon and Pinawa. Northern Manitoba, 0 in Churchill, 15 degrees in Lynn Lake, 14 in Thompson, 13 in Flin Flon and the Paw. Here's what's going to happen. This high-pressure ridgeline going to poke down into us overnight. Clearing skies out, cool Arctic air mass sitting right over us from about 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. You might see temperatures hovering near that 0 to minus 2 degree range. Your grass level minimums may be just a degree or two colder, around minus 3 to minus 4. So yes, there is a risk of frost. A frost warning has been issued for southern Manitoba for tonight. We'll get into more of a southerly trajectory. Tomorrow is the high pulse to the east of us. A southerly flow means temperatures will start to warm up slightly to seasonal values of around 19 degrees. Friday, we'll see a mixture of sun and cloud as a minor disturbance crosses the north central areas of the province. And with it, pardon me, you might see a little bit of precipitation, about a 30% probability. And then on Saturday, as we get behind this little minor cold front, temperatures of around 16. Another high building in for Sunday, and this will force another southerly flow into our area. And daytime highs on Sunday will return to about 20 degrees. So all in all, not a bad forecast with a fly in the ointment tonight, of course, that frost in southern Manitoba. 14 up in Inuvik, 21 Whitehorse. We have 18 Prince George, 20 Vancouver, 7 and 9 in Edmonton and Calgary, 15, 13 Saskatoon and Regina, Thunder Bay 10, it's 11 in Toronto and Halifax 9. St. John's, 18 New York, 27 Miami and Brownsville, 23 in Dallas, 25 Nashville 9, Chicago 11 in Grand Forks, Minot 10, 8 in Denver, 29 Phoenix, 18 Las Vegas, and 15 degrees in both Los Angeles and San Francisco. Here's the frosty forecast tonight. Frost warning has been issued. Clear skies, light northerly winds, temperatures at breakfast time anywhere from minus 2 to 0 degrees. Tomorrow, here's what we'll see. Mainly sunny skies, light southerly winds, temperatures anywhere from 17 to 19 degrees. Ron's Weather Watch for Friday. Nice day, temperature-wise, 20 degrees, very low probability of some showers with that minor disturbance moving through. Saturday, we'll get behind that cold front and a high of 16, a low of 5. Sunday, a great day forecast with a southerly flow, sunshine, and a high of 21 degrees. So tonight should be the last night we have to cover up any plants. Then it's hopefully smooth sailing from there on. Have yourself a good evening, friends. Easy does it. And for now, that's the weather.
Well, for now, the rains are tapering off in the Midwest, but for residents near the Mississippi and Missouri rivers, the floodwaters continue to cause problems. In Horton, Missouri, about 45 miles east of Kansas City, water levels are still climbing since a nearby dike burst early yesterday. Now, authorities are watching traffic in the area closely as 3 to 6 inches of water are creeping over many roadways there. So far, no evacuations are reported in Horton, but other residents haven't been so lucky. Residents just south of St. Louis are still sandbagging what's left of their historic town, and forecasters say more rain is on the way. While thousands of acres of farmland bordering on Lake Manitoba are threatened by rising floodwaters tonight, water management officials say it could be up to 6 weeks before Lake Manitoba crests. And as Rick Donkers reports, farmers are upset because they believe they're being out-flooded in order to prevent flooding elsewhere.
You didn't drink coffee. You shouldn't be able to drink coffee. Several dozen farmers met in Joe Johnson's front yard, frustrated with the floodwaters that have robbed them of their pasture land and hay crops. Thousands of acres along the southern part of Lake Manitoba have been flooded with water from the Assiniboine River.
Yeah. Lake Manitoba was never meant to be a watershed for the Assiniboine River. No.
Whenever flooding conditions exist on the Assiniboine between Portage, Prairie, and Winnipeg, the Portage diversion inlet is open. Floodwaters are diverted 29 kilometers north into Lake Manitoba.
Farmers see the problem that flows are coming into the lake at a very high rate, but they're not getting out of the lake as fast as they can, and so there's really no place for the water to go but up onto their land.
As Lake Manitoba continues to rise, farmers are concerned about the encroaching water, but they're also worried about their cattle and how they're going to feed them with their pasture land gone.
I have 240, and I think there'd be only about 80 acres left, and it's not underwater.
I don't imagine those fish keep long enough for our cattle to eat in the wintertime, you know.
For Darrell Armstrong, it's not a laughing matter. He doesn't know how he will feed 180 head of cattle this year. Darrell and his wife Dee Dee also operate the Big Point Resort. It used to have 60 feet of beach. Many farmers see themselves as sacrificial lambs so that farms along the Assiniboine don't flood. Others say the province has mismanaged its water supply.
I understand that there could be more water going out of the lake through Fairford, but and I think that something has to be done to try to. If we could get a little bit more water out of the north end, it would provide some relief, but not a lot of relief. There's just an awful lot of water that has to be managed.
Water management officials are expected to meet with the Fairford Indian Band later this week. That dam is operating at 50%. There are fears that any more water would flood the reserve. Near Langruth, Rick Donkers, Pulse News.
It's usually around this time of year that Manitobans arm themselves with insect repellent before heading outdoors. Around Winnipeg, though, the mosquitoes seem to be missing, but the bugwort